So what do you do if you find out that a colleague of yours is making significantly more? And this is, of course, after you scream swear words into the abyss. Keep watching, because today I am spilling all the tea regarding what you need to do to ensure that you are compensated at the rate you deserve. Hi, I'm Kristen, and if you're new to my channel, I'm a former attorney and tech exec turned executive career coach. I help mid to senior level women get promoted and transition into work they love. Let's dive in. So the first person you want to address this issue with is your boss, or if you don't feel like your boss would be supportive, then your skip level. The reason for this is because they are going to understand the value that you bring, and they are going to automatically assume that if you find out you're making thousands of dollars less, you are a flight risk. So go to them first, and here's how I want you to frame the issue. I want you to frame it with intention versus impact. We're going to assume positive intent in the beginning. So this happened to me previously, and it's happened to multiple clients of mine. So we've learned from one another. But in my situation, I went to my boss and I assumed, and this was correct, that there had been a real increase in salaries during my tenure with the company. And while I was making a 4 to 6% annual salary increase, other individuals were coming onto the team making 10, 20, in this case, $25,000 more than me with the same degree and actually less experience. Now, it's also important to understand that this was a man. So this was a gender disparity, or if there's a racial disparity, then they're going to pay a lot more attention to that versus if it's a colleague of the same sex or the same race. And while that's not fair, it's just a fact of life and a fact of the law. So how I framed the situation was, I said, I understand salaries have increased dramatically, but I understand my new colleague is also making $25,000 more than me, has less experience and the same degree. It made me feel, so here I'm talking about the impact, as though you don't value the contribution that I'm making to the team. And I was a little bit vulnerable, and I added that feeling in there. So what she did, which was the right thing to do, was she immediately let me know a couple of things. She went to HR. She found out that there was a policy where they could only increase my salary by 30%. So she was transparent about that, which I really appreciated because that's one of my personal values. And she said, I'm going to give this to you now, and then I'm going to make it up to you at the annual review so that you are up to market rate. And she absolutely did that. So that reinstilled the trust that I needed to continue with the team. That's not always the case. And if that happens to you, here is step number 2. Go to HR. Now, I say this with a and an eye roll internally because HR, as you know, works in the best interest of the company. And the higher you are, or if you are in the C-suite, you are more the company. So that might mean that they will have policy hoops to jump through. They will have an investigation that needs to be conducted, and they might conclude that you are not worth that salary if they don't see that there might be a lawsuit against them at the end. I know that sounds a little harsh, but it's absolutely true. I want to always tailor my information to what's happening in the economy at the time. And right now it's the end of 2024 as I'm recording this video. For the last year, I've been dealing very, very heavily with HR cases, and it is far worse than what I have seen in previous years. As the economy contracts, people contract in the way that they treat one another. So they don't assume positive intent, and they might not be on their best behavior. HR has been overwhelmed, I believe, in that sense. That's just my personal opinion on the situation. And that means that it's taking a lot more in order for them to be not just proactive, but active. They won't understand the value that you bring to the team and the organization. So it's never my first line of defense. It just creates a lot of red tape and paperwork, and you might not get the result that you want at the end, or it might take an exorbitantly long period of time in order for them to reach a conclusion. So number 3, and this is a good news, bad news situation. I want you to understand that the law is on your side regarding fair pay. So a number of years ago, there was a woman named Lily Ledbetter. You probably have heard of her. She worked for Goodyear Tire. She was one of the first women to work for the organization. She worked there for years. She earned the trust and respect of her colleagues. And one day, after a 20 or 30-year tenure, she received a note in her mailbox letting her know that she was significantly underpaid. She sued and she lost because, and this is key, There is a 180-day statute of limitations, so you have to know that you're being underpaid within 180 days is what the law said. And the court upheld that law, but what happened, which was fantastic, was Congress came back and said, that is not okay. Each paycheck that you receive resets that timeline. And so what that means is if I get paid on Friday, that resets the 180-day timeline. So that's great news for you. Now, another thing to understand about this is anytime that there is a federal law, and the Ledbetter Act is a federal law that was passed in 2009, that is what we consider a floor. So what I mean by that is that states and municipalities can enact their own laws. And in states like the one I live in California, you can receive double the damages. And let me discuss that next. So the Ledbetter Act says that you not only need to be brought up to the salary that is market value, but for the time that has passed, and this happened to Lily Ledbetter, one of the things she said in an interview was, this was years that I wasn't able to contribute fully to my 401k or my Social Security. This is my legacy for my children that I won't be able to give them. And it hurt because she understood the value that she brought, and I want you to understand the value that you bring too. So the act that Congress passed fixed this, where you would be able to receive back pay for the time that this disparity was going on. And in states like where I live in California, they've added on that if the company knew and was malicious about paying the individual less, those fines double. So the back pay, if I were to figure it out, and for me it was $125,000 because of the time period, they would pay me $250,000 for the time period. So it always pays to see a licensed attorney where you live and understand how much you are owed. The one other thing I will say as a former litigator is that litigation can be very emotionally and financially draining. So it's not something that I take lightly. I do actually recommend that you see an attorney. That's a nominal fee just to figure out what you're entitled to and if you have a solid case. But moving forward, hopefully you'll receive a settlement, but moving forward for the long haul, I just, want to be really transparent and say it's not something I would undergo lightly, but I do think it's worth it because one of the reasons I became a lawyer is not just for myself and to rectify the situation that I saw and do continue to see myself as a woman in this country, but for my nieces, for every little girl who comes after me. So I hope that's something that you'll think of as well. I hope you found this video helpful. If so, would you like, share, and subscribe? It really helps us grow our community, and that's my intention, is to cultivate a group of like-minded, kind, supportive individuals so we can help one another navigate corporate America. I come out with new videos each week, and I will see you then. Take care.